so much changing and shifting at the moment, and we are coming up on eclipse season. I was describing to someone that when an eclipse happens, it is literally like the sky going dark for a second. And then when the light comes back in, you see with new eyes. So your old life or your old vision gets literally eclipsed out and sometimes replaced with something that is different in a non-linear fashion. It's not necessarily that it was you were at one and now you're at two. You can be going from one to W, a whole different kind of system. And what's the magical thing about two eclipses, which always they come in pairs, is that they are sort of each other's balancing mechanism. So what we need to remember is that in between the two eclipses, that's not when the dust has settled. That's when things are still in play, still in motion. It's not the final destination. So we have to really train ourselves to be able to roll with the punches and not delineate and extenuate a circumstance that we see for one moment in time as lasting forever, what it means for the future, how it's going to affect things for the future, play future tripping in our heads. Like if A is happening now, then that means B is definitely coming. And I'm going to remind all of us that it's our level of commitment to our alignment and being true to ourselves that is going to determine how quickly and how well these wheels of fate spin for each of us and what that returns back to us based on the hands that we play. Everything is up for play right now, just energetically as well, and not just because of these two eclipses. And that can obviously be terrifying when you feel like everything is up for play, but you're only terrified when you don't think that you are powerful enough, or when you think that other people have power over you, or that there are somehow people out there who know how to be powerful, but you just don't, and you've just missed out. These lies get so embedded and so subtle that sometimes even just looking at the outside world and seeing other people in their strengths seems to validate and concentrate the idea that you're not. And we've also come to believe power as this thing that it isn't. And I like to encourage you to replace the word power with the word command. Command over self, self mastery. That's what power is. It's not this power hungry trip that you just need to be full of yourself or be extra confident or front extra confidently, and that means you'll get everything you want. Sometimes it does, because that still seems to be a currency that other people, all of us, I could say to some extent, give away our power to others, is the ones that do front as extra confident. So I understand, and we have to give ourselves understanding for the fact that we do believe that's how things work because we have participated in that dynamic. But life is changing so quick that soon that game is going to long be expired and the lights will have gone out before we've even realized that we had any time to, gather our stuff and pack up. That's going to be a lot of what's going to be happening with all these old systems dying right now, is that the lights are going out and they will go out at any minute that you will be unprepared for or unaware of, because it will just happen overnight. So take time to pack now. Take time to not be there once the lights have gone out. So I want to talk to us today about alignment, because what is it? And we talk about it all the time, but it's become one of those umbrella terms now where we all interpret it slightly differently. So I want to talk about it in the frame of this podcast, this Align app, in terms of human design. Because as you know, human design is the science of going back to who you came here to be when you were born on this planet. You already organically lived your natural self. If you were left to your own devices, you would be that. You would already be the real version of you. But of course, the whole point of coming into this world is that we are challenged with holding strong to that divine expression. And we will multiple times go through heroes' journeys that bring us away so that we can make the effort and the becoming to do this homecoming back to self. And in doing so, it's that process that makes us revere and fall in love with what we always were to begin with. We wouldn't love it as much if we had this constant play of needing to proactively back it. So I think in the spiritual world and also the wellness world in general, and probably you could say the business world too, there's this sort of false idea that we buy into and want to believe that if you just do this, then your life is always going to be amazing. And yes, it's true on one level, but I also believe in not dangling false, shiny carrots to people, which then, if we think we're not there, we're always just going to believe the myth that we are somehow not doing life right. And therefore, we couldn't possibly let ourselves enjoy it or soak it up or savor it. So, alignment doesn't mean that life never challenges you. It doesn't mean that you feel happy every day of your life. It means that you are doing what's correct. You feel that you are in the right place at the right time. You feel like you are the kind of person who would be going through these beautiful things and these challenging things, and it makes sense to you as part of your journey. It feels like, yes, there's a challenge, but I'm not scared of it as much because I know how the rules work and I know my inner architecture so well that I can see the perfection in this challenge. I can see why it's coming to me. And therefore, I don't just have to know that it's a good thing. I can feel that it's a good thing because I see how well crafted it is. Because, of course, this would be the next thing that I had to go through to get to where I'm going next. And not to get to what I want next necessarily, but get to who I'm becoming next, who I know I'm capable of being. And wow, that taste of who I'm capable of being next reminds me of an old fraction of my old self that I either left behind long ago or was never allowed to be expressed to me because it was judged by family members. And so I locked it away in my shadow. I judged other people for being that way. And now I have such a interpretation of what that one quality is because I've only ever seen it reflected in other people and saw the negative sides of it or the negative versions of it or seen it through negative lenses, which is what our conditioning is. So, a lot of what we are doing right now, going back to the eclipses, clearing our lenses, is not about doing and running and trying to make things perfect for ourselves because all that is ultimately it disguised as kind of, spirituality. That's just trying to manage our inner emotional life. Like if I just get this, then I'll be able to settle. That's that thing that you're trying to get is never going to give you the settled feeling. Becoming who you're meant to become is going to make you feel settled because you will feel like a spiritual warrior who is dancing with what life is bringing you and understanding the winks that life is sending to you as to why it's sending. It doesn't feel like chaos and randomness anymore. It doesn't feel like you don't understand why the assignment is coming at the time it's coming. So, what we're doing right now, and especially during these eclipse seasons, it's a nodal. When we have eclipses, it means that the new moon and the full moon are right on what we call the north node and the south node. The north node is what we have to stretch towards, the energy that we need to embody more, and the south node is the energy that we need to be letting go of. Now, there are no such thing as positive and negative signs. So, for example, right now the North Node is in Pisces. We're being encouraged to stretch towards the positive iterations of Pisces, not the negative ones. And we are needing to release the negative sides of Virgo and yet still recognize there are positive ones that serve us well. So, the point being, because this eclipse is a Pisces Virgo eclipse pair, we have to realize that it's not about so much the doing, it's about Pisces. That is letting things be nonsensical, right? Letting things not be understandable to the mind that wants to have the framework, that always wants to know X causes Y causes Z. And life is so multifactorial and multi-layered that it can't be squeezed into a box. The only thing that can be deduced out of all the different facets of a possible human life that gets shown to you in the sequence that they get shown to you is the ultimate universal laws, of which there are very few. And those I have covered before. One of them is that life is literally taking its cues from you and your inside world, and then the thoughts, the intentions, and the actions that you choose to have as a result of pruning and blooming and curating that inside world to be a really strong and beautiful and pleasant place as much as you can be. And you get rewarded for the efforts of the things that pruning that you do, whether it's in a challenging time or whether it's in a wonderful time. And ironically, sometimes you we make more effort to curate it when times are challenging, which is why sometimes the universe does need to send us bigger tests, because we sometimes switch off and get complacent when things are just fine or good. And so that from that understanding, you don't fear challenges as much. And again, it's not because you force yourself mentally to not fear challenges, it's because you have that lived visceral experience of dancing with life the way that I'm talking about now, with true alignment. So when we talk about alignment, it's not about feeling great all the time, because that is something that no other human, no matter how wise they are, is able to guarantee you that. That's above our spiritual pay grade. Life is supposed to be wonderful and awe-inspiring and magical, but is it supposed to be happy and free of any of the things that we don't want to feel all the time? Absolutely not. And that's actually a relieving thing to know. Because if you are doing this the way that we are speaking about, you are grateful in the moment for the challenges. And yes, your mind also hates it sometimes, and it will kind of throw its own fits, but you also have that kind of deep cellular feeling of, I know this is not a random universe. I know I'm not being punished. I know that this is a call for me from the forces of life that are all around me. That is my only and greatest teacher that I revere, to show me that challenges are embedded in life. Everybody hopefully loses a parent, right? All the other options of how that goes is less something you wouldn't wish on anybody. Everybody is either faced with a small or a large health challenge, or has someone that they love that is faced with that. Everybody has to think about earthly things, and that's because we aren't just souls. We are half soul, half human body. And I remember something really wise that Monica Berg, who is one of the heads of the Kabbalah Center, said to me recently. She said, it's very easy on this universal, whatever we want to call it, vertical. It's very easy for the soul to survive without a body. It's very happy, doesn't need a body, doesn't need to be here. And it's very easy for the body to be here without the soul, meaning that you can just eat. It's like you can switch off and be a consumer of life. You can go to work, not think about it, do the bare minimum, watch your shows, go to the same place your parents went to, marry the kind of guy you thought was good, like the whole thing. So that's very easy to be body and just like worshiping false idols and just always going from one kind of consumption to the next, and always be dictated by the societal norms and the programming and the external shoulds. That's also quite easy. The part that is hard is, and I'm paraphrasing here, but the part that is hard is having one foot in between two worlds and doing that alchemy that only humans can do. And that's what makes us incredible, unique things in the universal realm, is that we have this special power to mix the two together and make something so intoxicatingly delightful to watch by other humans and by all the other forces and beings that exist that are watching us right now. So alignment is not happy clappy all the time, and I'll only let myself feel worthy if I have made that happen by kidding myself with, whatever, spiritual bypass, my own illusions, my own kind of wishes and dreams, my own hopes of avoiding discomfort. But no, because I know that alignment is being strict enough and caring enough about this one shot I get at this life of being specifically me to always do the correct thing, even when someone else isn't going to like it, even when you feel like you might have to go and experience some temporary downside because of it, even when it might lose you some contract or some followers or some whatever other metrics that when we are in fear and lack and not prioritizing our becoming, thinking that we need those things to stay for us to be okay again. So it's like, instead of trying to mitigate always being okay, and actually trying to avoid just not feeling bad. That's also what a lot of our actions come from. And we can use things like spirituality and alignment and astrology and human design and all these things for that purpose too. We can contort that stuff and tell ourselves stories about how it works at our will to help us constantly be on this mission of avoiding pain or avoiding discomfort and trying to soothe and trying to tell ourselves that we've constructed enough evidence around us to show us that we are okay. Or we can just get to work and tell ourselves that we're going to work at being an okay person, i.e., having a steady, strong state within and having the calmness and having the preparedness and having that discipline to remind ourselves in the hard moments that this is how life works. And let me constantly proactively remind myself. And it's not easy and it does take work. And this is why it's not easy to do, because the mind will stop anywhere that it's exhausted and try to lay to rest on some platitude that was helpful today. But in your growth tomorrow, you're going to need to understand things differently. And one of the other things that they say in Kabbalah is that everything is a paradox. So where we have really gone wrong and where it's actually quite attractive, especially in spirituality or especially in like business advice or any kind of guruification, is that someone says, when someone does this, it means this. And that's where the ego can get trapped because it wants to believe that. And we have to give ourselves grace for that, because it is easier to believe that life is like that there are these hard and fast rules, but there aren't. These truths are truths with small t's, meaning that can be true sometimes for some people, but never always. And so, yes, the mind can find that it's helpful to say, it's never good to do this. And that can be your medicine today that helps you become your next level. But then you reach a different context tomorrow and you need the opposite thing, which is also a truth. And they are all truths. But there's a big difference between a truth and a truism. So there are many, many truths and they all conflict on this worldly plane. And yet we are torturing ourselves trying to attach one thing that we can safely rest our heads on and say, that means I get to take this one with me and put it in my pocket. And therefore it will save me time to have to rethink everything tomorrow. Because if I have to rethink and pay wild attention tomorrow, then what if I just feel less capable? And that's the unlock for us, is that paying attention and questioning yourself is a healthy thing. It's something that if you try to do it as if you are a person who knows you can master yourself and master the forces of life. I don't mean the physical world, I mean the forces of life, and have them flow through you the correct way, then you're not scared of questioning every day. Then you feel empowered eventually by questioning things every day. So the unlock here is there is no switching off to life. And tomorrow, it's okay if I'm shocked with something that I discard or put down from yesterday. And I now see that I was kind of clinging to that one and hoping I could just universalize it across every board of my life. But actually, it's only really true here and it only affects that time. And it's because I was going through this that I needed that. And, what's the medicine for today? Ultimately, we need to reset all the time. And this does scare us because, and you see it a lot in self-improvement where people go, everyone has the same 24 hours, or you say everyone has 10 minutes a day to do something. And it's true. And yet we're not doing it. So why are we not doing it? If I'm taking this through the lens of human design, in human design cosmology, we live in a space-time continuum, of course, but space is actually much more of a predominant vector here than time is. We kind of think they're one and the same, but space is much more of a big factor. And so, yes, we have the time, but do we have the space within us? If we're too emotionally overwhelmed, even if you do have the 10 minutes to meditate or pray, or you do have the 10 minutes to go for a walk, you do have the 10 minutes to call your mother, even heck, the 2 minutes to call your mother. I know I've been in places where I've told myself I haven't had the time, but I know it's because I haven't had the emotional bandwidth. I haven't had the mental bandwidth. I haven't had the spiritual capacity. I haven't slowed myself down enough to not feel so overwhelmed with stuff that's kind of coming into my field all day that actually isn't helping me be a person I'm proud of. It's just kind of turning me off, switching my brain off because I need to get some of that space back. But actually, it's overwhelming me only further. In the moment, it's kind of giving me relief because scrolling takes less proactive energy and it's a passive energy. So it doesn't require my conscious bandwidth, but it's stealing from my emotional, spiritual, mental bandwidth later. It's like having a coffee. You have a coffee now, but it's not giving you energy, it's just borrowing energy from the future. That's what we're doing when we do things that do require less emotional bandwidth. So, and it's so annoying for me to say this, but really the only way that we can improve our spiritual bandwidth is doing this work that I'm speaking about in this episode. And the way to clear your emotional and mental bandwidth is to cut down on the noise that is coming into your field. A lot of you are saying the same sentiment to me right now, that it's pretty amazing how much less tolerance we have for even old things we used to enjoy watching, things that used to feel relatively high vibe and probably are still at the high vibe spectrum of everything that we could consume in terms of movies and music. And, we're not necessarily listening to like angry stuff, and we thought we were listening to pretty light, easy stuff, but even that is now starting to feel draining or not as rewarding. And it's happened to me a lot recently where I'll go on YouTube and I'll click on the things that my old narrative is like, you like this stuff, you're Jenna and you like this. And I click on it and I'm observing myself in the moment. I'm like, I'm not extracting the amount of enjoyment that I used to. That's weird. And I could go two ways out of here. I could say, I could push through and trying to make myself enjoy it. I could tell myself that I should be enjoying it. Or I can just turn it off and deal with like, oh God, maybe I don't enjoy watching this person's channel, but I used to think they were so great. And does that mean I don't like them anymore? Does that mean that they're wrong? Does that mean that they've changed? No, I've just, there's no story around it. It just doesn't feel like it's adding to my frequency for whatever reason at the moment. And I think we all really need to give ourselves permission to want to be so much less attracted to the old stuff, whether that's old foods, whether that's old music, old anything, and not know what we're replacing it with, because what we are replacing it with is actually a very full inner world that doesn't require so much on the outside. And that's why it's not a tangible thing, because the inner world can be somewhere absolutely stunning, or it can be somewhere that feels very overwhelming. And the reality is, it goes from one to the other and probably ever in between over the space of one day. So it's more about where we can consciously keep on adding drops of water to the strong sides, the authentic sides. And note that I'm being very aware of not saying the positive sides, because it's not about positive emotions all the time. In fact, we will get into a lot of trouble right now if we don't acknowledge the uncomfortable emotions, because uncomfortable emotions are, since we are always being spoken to through the universe by our bodies, not our minds, right? That's a lot of the places where we're going wrong, as we're trying to overthink everything. This human design basically says that it's our bodies that are the conduits for the divinity, and it's our bodies that know. And there's so many more chemical processes that are absolutely divinely orchestrated all the time, where we can become much better energy readers through our bodies than we even think possible right now. But essentially, when we are in that body consciousness, that's when our inner world opens up, and we will get to pick up on so much more that's actually going on. And we are able to really know what's going on in the inside, and taste and swim in that inner fabric that before we just kind of don't really understand. So this is the promise of right now, is that sometimes, because we are so not connected to the alchemy that the body can promise, the knowing that the body can give us, the wisdom, the direction, the never failing guidance of what to do, say, and intend next, it's all there. But the reason why we sometimes have these acute, let's call them acute emotions and feelings, right? They're the ones we call uncomfortable feelings, like fear, overwhelm, anger. These things are how we get free, because they are the signals that say there's a pivot needed, or actually this is a situation that is wrong, because anger is always where you feel wronged, where we feel wronged. And so you can't realize that the scales are kind of unbalanced in a dynamic unless you have anger to tell you, oh, that's what that is. If you don't have overwhelm to tell you, this feels like this means that your body is telling you you're taking on too much, not your mind. Your mind might disagree and have a different story, but overwhelm is telling you the actual raw data, regardless of what the mind wants to think is going on in your life right now. That's the thing that we have to retire the mind. I say that all the time. Grief means that there has been a letting go, that you feel, love dying for something, or dying off, or changing shape. These things are all signals to help us realize what the body is saying, which then when we realize what the body is saying, we know what to do as a remediation to that. We know what to do next. We know what kind of becoming to do. If we're still attached to the stories and we're just running from these uncomfortable emotions, we cannot become body alchemists. We can only become mental alchemists. And mental alchemy is just control over the three-dimensional world. It's limited. Mastery of the self is absolutely unlimited, and it is harder, like I said, but in this new paradigm, we are going to become frequency-based beings anyway. So we may as well pack our stuff before the lights go out. We may as well take our stuff and set up camp in a bright room that has never-ending light in it, and learn how to put the tent or the pieces that we moved together in an even more beautiful way in a place that we know is lasting. And this is our work right now. And I'm so, so, so proud and so, so happy that we get to do this all together. Healing doesn't happen in a silo, like I've said before. And so knowing that we are all on this path together, and we are not knowing where any of it's going, but we're holding hands along the way, that's really the only reassurance you can get from other humans. No gurus, no people who pretend to have all the answers, just people who dare to see the mechanics of life the same way that your soul wants to see them too. And then the more of us go in that same direction, the more it solidifies, the more attractive and easy it becomes for others to join us in on it too. And then we win and they win and everybody wins. And we create a world where doing life this way is more common than doing life the current way. And so then it becomes the default stream that we leave as basically the greatest legacy that we can to leave behind on this earth. And it matters enough, our lives matter enough to devote our lives to doing that. Here's to your rising.